What is your most likely scenario that would lead to a nuclear war? Like, because you wrote the book on this stuff. That you're the person that everybody thinks of when we think about the scenario that nuclear war could break out. Of all the potential routes there, which one do you think is the most likely?
I do think that North Korea is very dangerous. I think Putin is. I would have told you 5 years ago that Putin would. He's an former intelligence officer. He's familiar with history. He knows better. And now I have a changed opinion about that. I think it's very dangerous, and I think that his use of the Oreshnik was sort of like that. That was a ballistic missile that is capable of carrying a nuclear warhead. There wasn't a nuclear warhead in it. He did notify the State Department prior to the launch of that. 30 minutes prior. But that's like incredibly dangerous. So. Everything is dangerous. Any nuclear-armed nation that, threatens nuclear weapons is dangerous. But AI is its own extraordinary level of danger, and the article that you wrote speaks to that. Now, my understanding is currently everybody knows that, air quotes, and then when I learned about the Department of War Anthropic AI late at night battle over using AI in these systems, I was surprised.
Why?
Because I thought there was more restraint on that. And what I see in this administration—
From the government.
Yes. And to see sort of the same bravado that we do agree on is coming out of this administration about exerting power, about just being able to do a decapitation strike effectively using AI, I go, wow, that is not what I expected.
The interesting thing with Trump generally is that he has a reputation of saying and doing things that at one point we would have all gone, oh my God. But we've almost become so used to these things that there's almost a desensitization to some degray.
Shattering of norms, they call it, right?
He also contradicts himself. I mean, that's not even he's spoken on the record about how, I think he put out a video in 2011, I might be wrong on the date, attacking Obama for, and saying that he was going to attack Iran.
In 2013, there's a tweet that he posted saying attacking Iran is showing that you failed at negotiations and, something to that effect.
So here we are talking about how important it is to change your mind. Maybe if you're not maybe not if you're the president of the United States.
I think the slippery slope is so gradual that sometimes you don't see where you're heading towards. Yes. And in terms of sort of military action and the use of AI and all these things and autonomous weapons, it would feel like we're going down a slippery slope here in a way that I haven't felt for the other 33 years of my life as it relates to geopolitics and war. And also generally, when you think about some of the actions and speeches at Davos, where the US leaders were saying to the Europeans, listen, you guys are weak now. And it was sounded to me saying, you guys are weak, get your shit together, figure out your energy situation. We don't need you anymore. Listen, we're not going to quit. We're going to run this now. And this whole idea of special relationship, blah, 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 it seems to have gone out the window. So you've got an emboldened United States military and leadership who seem to be able to do what the fuck they want. If you don't let us use your AI how we wish, we'll smash your company. We'll take away that $200 million contract and we'll cut you off from the rest of the supply chain. And we get used to it. We hear the headline and go, oh, that's crazy. And then we kind of get desensitized again, as humans do. But the direction of travel is sometimes what you want to look at. Versus just this sort of static state of where we are.
That's the concern. I think you have hit the nail on the head with that.
I agree. I think you've got a much clearer picture than most, Steve, on what's going on here. The United States, it has to pursue AI far more aggressively than what the CEOs of these companies want. I actually do believe there's quite a bit of altruism in the CEOs and the founders of these AIs. They didn't create these AIs so they could be warmongers. They created these AIs for some techie, beautiful vision of some utopian future.
That's like saying Zuckerberg didn't create Facebook to cause teens to feel bad about themselves. He created it for way for people to connect.
For something else, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
But look what happens.
That's unintended consequences.
Yeah.
So regardless of what the United States' opinion is about AI, it also has to very realistically look at how China is developing AI. And China is already 10x more aggressive than the United States is. And if they crack the code on certain types of AI, like artificial general intelligence or recursive self-improvement, if it breaks the code on these first, it's an exponential head start over the United States. And all of their AI everything that we have some sort of reticence about using, automated or autonomous weapons, mass surveillance, China's already using. So the number one strategic priority consistently in all documentation is China. So the United States has to aggressively pursue AI.
Yes.
I understand that mindset. It is absolutely ludicrous to think that one day an AI helps us take the leader of Venezuela, and then the next day we claim it's a supply chain risk. That's the kind of lunacy that we live in every day.
That's a good point.
But my bottom line concern here is that the United States used to be the leader of the free world. We're not a leader of the world at all. We're adopting more autocratic behaviors because we're seeing other countries succeed with autocratic behaviors. And we're abandoning Europe, which is the only place left trying to say that democracy still counts. Like we are not leading anymore. We are mimicking, we are reacting, we are petulant, but we are not leading.
I'm still thinking about your doomsday scenario with deathbed Vladimir Putin and what he might do.
Is that like realistic?
Is it realistic? You know, it's like from hell's heart, I stab at thee. I mean, I don't know what's realistic anymore. Again, these norms that are shattered, these restraints, these guardrails that we think, no, a leader wouldn't do this or someone wouldn't do that. I'm beginning to question all of it too. I don't know anymore what someone is or isn't capable of. And I think humans have a discomfort with cognitive dissonance where, you know, holding two opposing viewpoints at once. We've gotten, I think, worse at it, evolutionary over time. And our politicians are the worst yet, or our world leaders are the worst at it yet. And so that's a cause of concern for me.
I always think, like, what has someone got to lose and what have they got to gain? And if you've got a couple of days left of your life or a couple of days left in office and I don't know, Trump's going to be, 83 by the time he gets out of office or something?
Yeah, why does he care if he pushes a button and does whatever?
At which point, you know, and the same with Putin. At some point, he's going to be old and he's going to have a couple of weeks left in his life. And he's going to be reflecting on his legacy and he's got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Trump's got nothing to lose there's no second term. Well, I watched him the other day taking great admiration to the fact that Zelensky they can't be elections in Ukraine because there's a war going on. And I think he cracked a joke saying that he would kind of like that if there was a US war going on, then there wouldn't be elections. And it sounded like a joke, but a lot of things have sounded like jokes before that he said. So what do you think happens next? And also, I wanted to get your take on, we've got this map here which shows where Iran can strike with their missiles. I've got friends in Dubai. Never in my life did I think bombs would be dropping on Dubai or any strikes or drones would be happening in Dubai. And one of my best friends was in the basement in a bunker 2 nights ago because of what's going on. That whole region has been hit. The Dubai airport has been hit. Saudi Arabia has been hit. Bahrain's been hit. What does this do? Qatar's been hit. What does this do to the region? And why are Iran hitting these places?
So this is part of the burden-sharing strategy that the United States military doctrine has put in place. And I think to a certain extent, all of the region already knew they were on Iran's radar. They've all had this weird, hostile, collaborative relationship with Iran out of necessity because Iran is the breadbasket of the Middle East. So they've known that there's always the risk. But I don't think they ever took that particular risk seriously.
Why are Iran doing it?
Yeah.
Why do they care about messing up Dubai or making people in Dubai scared?
They are lowering the pain threshold. The deputy foreign minister said, we can't strike Americans in America. We can maybe strike Americans at their bases in these Arab states. And we can also strike the states that are hosting Americans, American civilians, American military, American contractors, you name it. They're all complicit.
It's
and
punitive.
it's lashing out. Because what happens is if you make it miserable for everybody, then the United States is pressured to bring this to an end.
Okay. So they're going to continue.
What does Iran have to lose? Back to your sort of doomsday scenario, they're about to be destroyed anyway. What do they have to lose? They're going to take everyone down with them because only if that threat is real will the United States say, okay, you know what, we're going to pause and see if we can get back to diplomacy. And it might work. Mm-hmm. If the Arab states, decide that, okay, we're not going to sustain this, we're not going to fight back, we need this to end. The United States, you have to stop what you're doing.
So we could see a lot of the conflict actually taking place in some of these neighboring countries, terrorist attacks, etc.
It's working. It's working. It's causing pain to these sort of peripheral countries that are not central to this conflict. And look what the United States has done, arguably, right?
Yeah. And one of the unintended, maybe intended consequences is if I turn on the news in the UK right now, the narrative is that this region, Dubai, all of these places, Abu Dhabi, it's all unsafe. And what that means is they're showing, the Sky News are going up to families in Dubai and going, how are you feeling? And they're going, I'm stuck, I just want to get home. And this region have spent a lot of money building their reputation over the last couple of decades, their tourist economy. And this is going to, even if the war was to stop today, there'll be a big cohort of people that choose not to go there on holiday and choose not to go and relocate there. And that will reverberate. One could argue that it's actually in, this narrative that the Middle East is unsafe. One could argue that that's actually in the interests of the UK. And
it's going to drive down the price of real estate.
Yeah, and drive up our tax receipts because we have a lot of, I think it's the biggest place that UK taxpayers abscond to and millionaires abscond to is this region. So did you have any thoughts on that?
No, you're not. I don't think you're wrong. I think that there's, whether or not, I don't believe that Western countries want to see death and destruction in the Middle East. I don't believe that. I do think that when they plan for blowback, they account for that and they try to make the best opportunity out of the blowback that they already expect. And that does make sense. But at the end of the day, Iran has to do something to react. And it knows that it can't just send all of its rockets at the fleet that's off the coast of Oman because the fleet that's off the coast of Oman is going to be able to intercept most of those rockets. So if they want some kind of effective response, the most effective response they can have is to share the pain and create some sort of international resistance against what the United States has done.
How long do you think this goes on for, Andrew, if you had to guess?
If I had to guess, I would say that there's going to be an active, hot conflict with Iran that lasts a few weeks. Hot conflict meaning every day we wake up and we see new rockets being launched and new attacks, new air sorties being launched. But the actual reverberations of this from Hezbollah, from Hamas, from the Houthis, from whatever loyal stanchions still exist in Iran, we could see that for years. There's no guarantee that Iran's going to bounce back from this in a better place. I hope it will, but hope is not the same thing as reality. Hope is just hope. I hope that it will, but in the vacuum, we could see the biggest adversaries to the United States flood in and support Iran like the biggest adversaries in the world flood in and support Afghanistan. We might see that we have even less influence over the region in the future than we do now.
Is there an issue of the distraction this is causing to what's going on in Ukraine and in other parts of the world where there was already conflict and there was already turmoil? Like, are people now not going to pay attention to Ukraine so that gives Putin some cover to be more aggressive there? And
it emboldens every authoritarian ruler out there because now it's validating to them that they're not actually doing anything wrong. If the president of the United States can do it, then certainly Putin can do it, and Xi Jinping can do it, and any warlord in Africa can do it. It's certainly allowed.
Or on the flip side, it's showing that if you act outside of international norms, that the United States president will not hesitate to decapitate your entire leadership, which is something maybe we didn't think was conceivable a couple weeks ago. So there's that inverse message.
Is it conceivable that both might occur?
Yeah,
yes, both can be true.
Probably,
absolutely.
It sounds to me like that might be the most likely outcome, that you're probably going to go one of either ways. China might say now's a good time to get Taiwan because, I mean, objectively speaking, people are distracted and they've set precedents.
It's a perfect time for someone to try to assassinate the president.
But then Cuba might say, we're going to behave.
Exactly. Because look what happens if we don't.
What do you think, Annie, on this subject of what happens next and what's likely?
I mean, to that end, I would say how fascinating is it that what happened with Maduro in January still shocks me. 150 paramilitary or military and intelligence officers go in, grab the sovereign leader and his wife in a heavily fortified military base, take out his, guardsmen who are actually Cuban. I mean, there's just so many things to unpack in what I just said about what just happened. And yet, that's just old news. That to me is more interesting than what might happen in the future. Not because I can try and wrap my head around the past, but I can't predict the future. But I do believe they correlate with one another, and only after time. It's the old hindsight is 2020. It will make how Iran unfolds. Maybe we'll get the band back together in 5 months and have a discussion, and we'll all be wrong. I don't know.
Separate question, but do you think Trump's going to leave office?
I mean, the Constitution says he is.
Do you think he will?
The Constitution says he is.
Or do you think he will?
I don't have a crystal ball.
Do you think he'll leave office?
I do.
Do you think he'll leave office?
do.
You do?
I have more confidence after last week's Learning Resources Supreme Court opinion that we saw two justices who Trump appointed who basically defied a policy that was the signature of his second term, his campaign, his tariffs, and saying that you don't have that power. Mm-hmm. I was emboldened. I would have been more pessimistic, but after seeing that, it gave me a little bit more hope that there is still sort of guardrails and separation of powers. It's still a thing.
What do you think happens next in the region?
I'm with Andrew. I think 3 to 4 weeks is the timeline I see for the actual kinetic war. And then after that, every one of these Iranian leaders, whoever's left, whoever steps in and fills a role of whether it's a military junta that takes over, whether it's a symbolic supreme leader, these are all marked men. They're all going to be targeted for assassination. There is
By who?
By Israel, but pretty much anybody that considers them enemies, even maybe now some of the Arab states for that matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't pay to be a political or religious figure in Iran. So at this point, I think what we're going to see in the months to come is a slow fracturing of that support. And I'm not surprised if we start seeing defections from the IRGC and people, just like we saw during 1979, saying, you know what, it's not worth it. There's nothing. There's no long-term gain here, because this regime has lost any credibility domestically. There's none left, zero. And it's losing credibility in the region. It violated an unspoken agreement with its Arab neighbors that they don't directly fight each other in this way. And its allies, so-called allies, have abandoned it. It has nothing left. So when you have nothing left, what is there to fight for? That's why, but that's going to take a few months up to a year to play out.
What is the most important thing that we should have talked about that we didn't talk about, Andrew, as it relates to all of the stuff we talked about today?
I think for me, what I always come back to is, what is the future for the average American? What does it look like for us? I'm not sure how this plays out. I'm not sure that we improved the state of the average American very much in the last few days. I don't know that we will see much improvement in the next few weeks. I don't know that we will see much improvement in the next few years because of what actions we took in Iran. But I do confirm, I agree with what the other two have said. Like, the United States administration has shown it's powerful in Venezuela, it's powerful in Iran. Cuba's already being more than whispered about as the next transition in government. How much chaos are we going to see to the existing world establishment before Trump then leaves office, and somebody else has to come in and pick up the mess? And I've always been concerned not about Donald Trump, but about who comes after Donald Trump.
Why?
Because if Donald Trump paves the way for this authoritarian type of shift, and if he has support through his final days in office, then whoever comes next will have even more legitimacy to come in with a strong hand from the beginning, and potentially a world where only authoritarian actions work. And that just continues to take us down a road of pain. I've been talking to you about this for the better part of 3 years, that I believe the world, and especially the United States, is coming into one of its darkest decades ever. This is the world that we live in now, a world where it's not unipolar, a world of AI technologies we can't predict, of conflict that we can't anticipate, of mass surveillance, of the breaking of international norms. This is the world we are coming into now. It's the world that our children are going to be developed in. It's the world that one day they will have to create their own future in, and our grandchildren will inherit whatever's left of it after that. It's sad to me to see that this is where we are, and unless we take some sort of responsibility for our own future, we will keep following this authoritarian trend.
But isn't this better than the past?
I would say no. A unipolar world where the United States is the supreme power, as an American, that is a better world.
But at least you won't die of dysentery out in the wilderness, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what people say, right? They say, well, babies aren't dying anymore at childbirth, and less people are struggling with poverty. So it's a better, depends what metric you're measuring, I guess. But on that point of the transition after Trump leaves, would it be worse if a weak leader came in? Because I'm wondering, look, we know Putin's still going to be there. We know a lot of these other powers are still going to be there. Biden didn't strike me as the scariest guy in the world, the toughest guy in the world. Didn't strike me as the toughest guy in the world. So if another figure like Biden came into power after Trump, once, with that war raging over there and with, China thinking about Taiwan, etc., is that not even more dangerous?
I think there's a difference between a strong leader and a strong arm. A strong leader can chart a path, keep a vision, make hard decisions, balance priorities, keep people focused. Where a strong arm is out to win. And Donald Trump, his entire career, he's been the man who's out to win. Again, I don't think this is a Trump issue. I don't think this is a Trump problem. I don't think Donald Trump is some villain of the world. I just think Donald Trump is the manifestation of how most Americans felt at the time that they elected him, which was like, we want to win. And now we're realizing that 2 years after the second time that we wanted to win, there are other secondary consequences that we hadn't considered. And that's why so many of the kind of groups that supported Donald Trump have changed flavor about him. It's why his approval rating is so low, because he's found a way to ostracize so many of the groups that used to support him because they didn't realize that he was more complex than what they had originally thought back in that November booth.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.